What's up, my friends, and welcome into the PHLY Phillies podcast. We are broadcasting live from the Xfinity Lounge here at the PHLY studios, and a happy Friday to you wherever you are across the Delaware Valley and beyond. Of course, the PHLY Phillies podcast is brought to you by our friends over at Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Use the promo code PHLY365. Deposit $10, place a bet for $5, and you'll get $150 back in bonus bets, whether your bet wins or loses. And a happy Friday to each and every one of you, whether you are watching this now live or you're watching later on demand or you're catching up on the audio-only podcast. Thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. As we've made it through another work week and into the precipice of the weekend. And if you are looking for signs that the Phillies are trending in the right direction, I think that you saw them this week. And I think that when we talk about the pendulum swing that could be and is the Phillies team at times, the pendulum this week is on the furthest end positive that I think you could possibly imagine. And we'll talk more about that throughout the show. An interesting contract extension handed out elsewhere across baseball and what it may mean for somebody who's already or felt like they were already entrenched at that position. We'll do that. And, of course, we will get into our weekly Friday Cranking the Heat segment, which will check in on the National League standings. And we'll take a look at the American League standings as well. We haven't had a chance to do that yet, but one team in particular playing some really good ball in the American League. But hello to you. Thanks so much for checking us out. Tyler Zulli, Andrew Frazier with you for the next hour here on the PHLY Phillies podcast. We have a lot to get into, so why don't we jump right into things? And we're going to start things today with our big takeaway segment, which is brought to you by our friends over at Xfinity. With Xfinity, the Wi-Fi is always booming. Our big takeaway of the day, which is kind of what I alluded to in the opening, which if you think about the last week or so of Phillies baseball, there have been some ups and some downs, some trials and some tribulations. There's been some really good highs and some unfortunate lows, but mixed in there over the last 3 games played, to me, might have been the best 3-game stretch of the season. Now, again, 3 games over 162 does not dictate the entirety of the season. It doesn't even dictate the entirety of a week. But it just does bring up the question, was this potentially the best series win for the Phillies over the season so far? Now, if you go back through the construct of 2025, they took 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers early in the season. They've won multiple series against the Chicago Cubs. They've taken some series against some good teams throughout the course of the year. But the way in which the Phillies won this past week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, may have been the most convincing of all of the series victories that they've had so far. 3 straight wins against a really good Seattle Mariners team. And I will say this, I'm going to preface the beginning of this conversation with what we did at the end of last week, which was the Seattle Mariners themselves were wrapping up the end of a 10-game road trip. And the difficulties that ensue when you are on a 10-game road trip are real. There's no question about it. And you could say, Phillies caught the Mariners at the right time. They were playing games 8, 9, and 10 of a road trip. They had just gone to New York. They had other stops along the way, probably looking to get home, which is fair. But I also think we flipped the conversation last week and talked about the Phillies going 6-4 over a 10-game road trip, which was good. You know, I think they had a chance to maybe even be 7-3. But when you are away from your home ballpark for an extended period of time, over the course of multiple cities with very little break in between, anything above 500 to me is a good road trip, a good extension of being away from your ballpark. So sure, you could sit here and say that the Mariners were wrapping up a long road trip themselves, might have caught the Phillies at a bad time, or maybe the Phillies caught them at a good time. But the way in which the Phillies won these 3 games, they did it in a little bit of different capacity each of the 3 games, but they were dominating wins. Even in game 2, which we'll get to in a second, where they needed a little bit of heroics from JT Realmuto, it felt like they were in control of the game for like 95% of the game. And the only time that they weren't was the 7th inning when Orion Kerkering had some command issues, and the Mariners ended up tying the ball game at 3 at the time, or at 4 at the time, excuse me. But we'll get into all of that. Monday night, Phillies beat the Mariners 12-7. They collect 22 hits. All 9 starters in this game had multiple hits. Not just had a hit, had multiple hits. Bryce Harper, Trey Turner, JT Realmuto picked up 3 or more hits in this one. And to me, the biggest thing about this game on Monday was the fact that they chased a really good starter in Logan Gilbert after just 2 innings. They forced him to throw 65 pitches, including nearly 40 in the second inning, and he was gone before he got 9 outs. He was gone before he got into the third because he only pitched 2. And quite frankly, the Phillies won that game 12-7. They really won that game 12-4 because Nolan Hoffman pitched the 9th, and really cool to see a guy get to make his Major League debut, but he gave up 3 earned runs in the 9th inning. The Phillies, when it mattered, for the first 8+ innings of that game, were up 12-4. And as I said, collected 22 hits, and everybody was a collective unit. And then the starting pitching in that game. It was definitively Ranger Suarez's best start in a few weeks. 6 2/3 innings, 2 earned runs, 4 hits, 10 strikeouts. He was poised. The command was sharp. His secondary pitches were working. The breaking ball was really, really good. And I thought that he had control of the game pretty much from the jump. So a comfortable 5-run win, which could have been even more after Game 1. Game 2, they win by 2, 6-4. They only have 7 hits in this one, but JT Realmuto plays the hero. Mariners tie the game 4-4. JT hits the go-ahead home run in the 8th, and the Phillies end up winning the game. And by the way, Joan Duran might be the most unhittable pitcher in baseball. We'll talk a little bit more about him throughout the show as well. Let's talk about the starter in that one, Cristopher Sanchez. His Cy Young lore continues to grow because he just continues to turn in excellent start after excellent start after excellent start, where he every single night gives the Phillies a prime opportunity to win the game. He goes 6 1/3, doesn't end up getting out of the 7th, but pitches 6 1/3, gives up the 2 earned runs. Orion Kerkering, again, we talked about that. It was one bad outing. I'm not going to hold him to too much more than it was an outing where he didn't have a lot of command and he struggled. And Rob Thompson turned to one of his high leverage relievers. And unfortunately on that night, Kerkering didn't pitch well. That's kind of open and closed conversation with that. I'm not going to take that any further. I have no worries about Orion Kerkering. He just didn't pitch well on a particular night. But Cristopher Sanchez goes 6 1/3, gives up just 6 hits, strikes out 12. And as Peel and Onions pointed out, that game had a postseason feel to it. Right? The back and forth. Kerkering struggles. JT picks him up. They take the lead. Duran comes in. The entrance, we know what it is. Phillies fans are rabid when that happens, and he shuts the door out of the pen. And that's kind of the formula for success in the postseason, was pick up your guys one right after another, kind of sequentially. Sanchez was great. JT picked up the slack. Duran shut the door out of the bullpen. They win the game 6-4. And then on Thursday, a comfortable win, even if it wasn't like that for a time, where the Phillies, I was listening to the game on the radio on my way home from here after we did our watch along. Phillies stranded a lot of runners. I think Larry Anderson said at one point they had stranded 11 runners, including like 7 or 8 in scoring position. Basically a runner per inning, or 2 runners per inning, through the first 6 innings. They end up busting it open late in the game and winning 11-2. They picked up 20 hits in that game. And for the second time in 3 nights, every starter had at least 1 hit. And what I loved about this game was that 5 different players had multiple hits in this one, including Trey Turner's 5-hit day. Notice the theme. Trey Turner's been unreal over the last 2 weeks or so. That's the offense. And then Jesus Luzardo, a really excellent start from him. 6 innings pitched, just 1 earned run, 3 hits allowed, 12 strikeouts. And for the most part throughout the course of the series, with the exception of the 1 bad inning from Kerkering and Nolan Hoffman pitching the 9th, which really didn't matter, the bullpen was really good for a bulk of the series. So let's talk about in total. The Phillies sweep out the Mariners in 3 games. In total, their offense secured 30 runs on 49 hits in a 3-game series. And their starting pitching went 19 innings, gave up just 4 earned runs, which is good for a 1.89 ERA, and struck out 34 Mariners hitters over the 3 games. It's a franchise record for the most strikeouts in a 3-game series by the Phillies starting pitching. And as Jaden points out in the comments, one of the things that was really good about Luzardo, and when he's on, you notice this, his control was really, really good. He didn't walk anybody in yesterday's game. So you get 19 really good innings from your starters, 34 strikeouts, and a sub-1.9, a sub-2 ERA over the 3-game stretch. This was, to me, as complete and dominant of a series victory that the Phillies have posted all year. Regardless of sweep or 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 4, this to me was the most dominant series win of the 2025 season. They've had some good ones. They've had some really good ones. Some timely hitting, some good series wins against good teams, some come-from-behind victories against good teams. This one, to me, was the most impressive series win of the 2025 season. And I understand it's only 3 games of 162. But Trey Turner was out of his mind in the series. The starting pitching was elite for 3 straight games. The timely hitting when it mattered from JT in a close game, and then busting things wide open in games 1 and in game 3 later in the game. And when you have that combination, this is the team's ceiling. This is the team that I believe still has the capability of making a deep postseason run and potentially going to a World Series. There are ebbs and flows throughout a season, and they've done it plenty. And I expect at some point that we get frustrated with the offense once again, as we did in the Red Series and through part of the National Series and through part of the season overall. The Houston Astros series, where their starting pitching gave up 5 earned runs the entire series, and they got swept. But this series, to me, balances out that Astros series because it's against the same division. It's against 2 potential playoff teams. And as bad as they were in that Astros series, that's how good they were in this series. And so, to me, I think without being dramatic or being hyperbolic or being anything more than looking at this on a 3-game sample size, this to me was the best series win of the year. And before we get to some of the other things I want to talk about in this series, I want to welcome our second member of today's show, our producer, our co-host, our friend, Andrew Frazier, to the program. And Andrew, a happy Friday to you.
Happy Friday.
Did you get the same sense that I did about how this series unfolded? Again, 3 out of 162, 3 out of a week even. And I know they caught maybe the Mariners at the right time. But this, to me, just felt like an utterly dominating performance from a team that's their model of success. And if they're going to have that sustainability, that's the team that can make a deep postseason run.
Tyler, this might be the only thing I have to say. If they play the exact same way they played in that series against the Mariners, they're going to win the World Series.
They have a very good chance of being there.
Hands down. They looked like the best team in baseball during that 3-game stretch.
There was a lot to be excited about, and it's been said in the comments. Luzardo, no walks. Sanchez dominating once again. You and I talked about him being a potential Cy Young candidate. Trey Turner being unbelievable in the last couple of weeks. And then Peter brings something up that we didn't get a chance to talk about yet. Bryson Stott naturally in the 9-hole makes a lot of sense for the construction of this team right now.
Yeah.
And Bryson Stott's swing looks far less loopy over the last 2 weeks or so than it's been for a majority of the season. When Bryson Stott is on, he's compact, and he has to be compact because he has a slow swing. Like I talk about like swing speed, he's naturally does not have a very quick swing. He's towards the bottom percentiles most years. And that's, I mean, other than like bulking up and getting stronger, which I don't think would be super beneficial for a guy like Bryson Stott. He's a lean speed guy, good defense. That might almost be go in the wrong direction for him if it limits his mobility, but he just has a slow swing. When his swing is on, it's a lot less this. You see when he is struggling, you see a lot of this. You see disengagement of the back elbow, you see disengagement of the back hip, and it drops the back leg kind of out of the equation. And so when you see this from Bryson Stott, you know he's struggling.
Yeah.
When you see this from Bryson Stott, you know he's staying on top of the baseball a little bit better. And we've seen that over the last couple of weeks, is he's seeing the baseball a little bit better and staying on top of it. And naturally, it's allowing him to drive the ball a little bit more.
Yeah.
Bryson Stott in the 9-hole, if he's hitting, to me, other than him hitting leadoff and Trey Turner hitting second, him hitting 9th and Trey Turner leading off might be the best place for him. Because what it allows them to do is basically have your two best base runners in Stott and Turner potentially on the bases at the same time.
Oh, 100%. During the watch-along, there was that one inning where it was Stott was on third and Trey was on first, and you have Schwarber coming up. And that is one of the most potent things in baseball, is having that 9-hole Stott getting on base, that 1-hole Turner getting on base, and then having the dangerous Kyle Schwarber coming up.
And Bryce Harper behind him.
And Bryce Harper behind him.
JT hitting the way that he's hitting right now.
Exactly. So, I mean, that is a punch and a half. That is called a KO punch right there, if they're able to do that. And with Bryson Stott now finding his timing, now being able to find himself on base, hitting the way that he's been hitting in recent time, man, that's dangerous.
And listen, here's the thing. Bryson Stott has a pretty simplistic formula to success. Bryson Stott, don't drop that back elbow first things first. Second of all, do you have any ability at the current juncture to catch up to the fastball up in the zone? Because that's something we've talked about with him plenty. Because of the bat speed, pitchers tend to like to take him up in the zone,
high up,
especially late in the count. His most successful approach is when he is able to take a breaking ball the other way. He's able to drive a pitch up in the zone to right center field over the second baseman's head. I'm not asking for a lot of power from him. His slug for his career is 378, and this year it's 367.
He doesn't need to be that.
Right. But if he can get on base, he's a threat.
Yeah. That's all his speed, his mobility, the way that he can steal bases.
Yep.
I mean, he is a threat on base, and that's all he needs to do is get on.
Consecutive seasons with 31 or more stolen bases. This year he's got 21. If he's going to play at a level, even if he plays at a level consistent to his season numbers, where he hits about 250, gets on base at like a 320-ish clip, there's a very realistic chance, even as a platoon piece, which he's been for a majority of the season, he could steal another 9 bags in the last 35 games if he's getting on at a decent clip. You may see a third consecutive 30 stolen base season from Bryson Stott.
That would be great.
And if you get to a point where you're flipping the order over with Stott on base and Turner up, or Stott and Turner on base with Schwarber up, as you brought up, first and third, a double scores 2. Second and third, a single scores 2.
Yeah.
Like, these guys are scoring on pretty much anything hitting the gap from anywhere on the bases.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And so if you can, in the blink of an eye, have Stott on base with Turner up, or Stott and Turner on base with Schwarber up, that is potency right there from your offense.
100%.
Because you could steal a bag, you could take an extra bag, you could go first to third, you could go second to home, you could go first to home on a ball hitting the gap. It provides you optionality. And with this team, as you and I have said all year long, if your expectation is Schwarber and Harper are going to hit, Turner's going to have a pretty heavy weight on his shoulders, and one or two other guys at any given juncture need to hit. If Stott can be a guy one night, if Marsh could be a guy one night, if Kepler could be a guy one night, if, I don't know what Castellanos' future looks like. It's still probably more starter than not. But if Castellanos could be you're asking for one or two other guys on any given night towards the bottom 4 or so. If those guys can contribute on top of your Turner, Harper, or Turner, Schwarber, Harper top 3, and if JT continues to hit well, that's your formula to success. And as you said, Andrew, if this team plays the way that it did against the Seattle Mariners in October, they are going to be a really difficult out.
And the crazy thing about that, Tyler, no Zach Wheeler.
No Zach Wheeler.
So this team playing the way they did in that series has an opportunity, more likely a great chance to win it all without their ace. That is how crazy this team is without him, and with him in addition, unstoppable.
It was a really fun series, and I think that this team's peak is still very, very much achievable. All right, let's pause. That's our big takeaway segment, which is brought to you by our friends over at Xfinity. With Xfinity, the Wi-Fi is always booming. Check out Xfinity online for more details. Restrictions do apply. I do want to talk about the Wheeler conversation because I believe somebody asked the question in the chat. I want to discuss Jaden's comment down below as well, discussing Stott and Marsh and Kepler. Get to them in a little bit as well. We are going to hit a break. On the other side, an extension was signed in the last 24 hours across Major League Baseball that does not necessarily immediately impact the Phillies, but I think the Phillies and other teams, I think a lot of other teams may have like the antenna may be raised a little bit because of how it impacts another member of that organization. We'll get to our National League standings check with our Crank in the Heat segment, and of course we'll kind of dive into the Nationals as well, a foe that obviously we all know very well. It's the PHLY Phillies podcast. We're broadcasting live from the Xfinity Lounge here at the PHLY studios. It is brought to you by our friends over at Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. We will be right back after this. All right, when you think trucks, what do you think? I bet you more than likely you think the F-Series from Ford. And why is that? Because it's the best-selling truck in America for over 48 straight years. The Ford F-150 blends work-ready toughness with modern-day tech and luxury. And in fact, I went on a guy's trip a couple of weeks ago. We played some golf, and my buddy drove his F-150 down. And we comfortably stacked all of our golf bags in the bed of the truck, and five grown men, were able to get in the truck and into the second row comfortably, and there was a ton of room within that truck. But if you're not sold by my story itself, how about this? Best-in-class towing up to 14,000 pounds. Pro Power Onboard turns your truck into basically a mobile generator. It's perfect for job sites and tailgates. Military-grade aluminum alloy body, so it's tough and lightweight, and of course, corrosion resistance. But if you're looking for the tech side of things, advanced Sync 4 system with cloud-based voice recognition and over-the-air updates. It is an incredible truck with awesome features both in and outside of the cabin. Comfortable, stylish, it looks sleek, and by the way, the best-selling truck in America for 48 straight years. So for more information, visit your local Ford store or check them out online to see all of the great features of the Ford F-Series, including the Ford F-150. All right, let me tell you about our friends over at Bet365, because whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365, and find out why 90 million users worldwide have come to realize that exact same thing. They live stream 780,000 events each year across 78 different sports, and you can get in on the live game, in-game betting all the time. As lines change, they get updated constantly. Bet365 is the pioneer of live in-game betting. How about this? Football right around the corner. You can get in on the same game Sunday offers that they are going to offer you all of the time. And then, of course, if you want to get in on the live action, you can do that with the pioneers of live in-game betting. And new customers now get, they've just upped the price. How about this, Andrew? It's not $150 anymore, $200 in bonus bets. That's how much Bet365 likes you. When you bet $5, win or lose. Use the promo code PHLY365. Deposit $10, place a bet for $5, and now you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Do it while those conditions do apply. Must be 21 and physically located in PA. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, welcome back to the PHLY Phillies podcast. Tyler Zula here, Andrew Frazier with us as well. Want to say hello to everybody in the chat. Thanks so much to Peter, to Ray Schumacher, to Jaden, who else is here? Peel and Onions, to Provolone John, to K-Red, to Chris Slem, everybody in the chat. If I missed you, I apologize. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. I really appreciate it. 2 points that I want to get into in the chat before we turn our attention to the next piece of conversation. The first part, Jaden says, shout out to the bottom of the order as of late. They've been balling. They have. Bryson Stott, Brandon Marsh, and Max Kepler's the third one. And Andrew brought up the outfield conversation to me before the show started as we were building out the show. And Max Kepler's interesting because Kepler was very, very, very close, I think, to being DFA'd. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it.
Oh, hands down, yeah.
I think, there's a willingness to say, hey, he could have been a left-handed bat off the bench. I think he was, this close to being DFA'd.
Oh, 100%.
He struggled. He was almost down to under 200, right? He was at 201, and every time he'd get close to 200, he'd have a 1-for-4 night or a 2-for-5 type of night, bounce himself back a little bit. And we talked a lot about, the conversation that Rob Thompson kept talking about was, well, he's hitting the ball hard. He's hitting the ball hard. He's hitting the ball hard. He's getting a little bit unlucky. And at some point you go, okay, what's unlucky and what's just you're not having a good year? But as of late, Max Kepler has been much better. And now you can start to have the conversation of, okay, he's starting to hit the ball a little bit hard. Or he is hitting the ball hard, a little bit more consistently. And now all of a sudden his 201, Andrew, he's up to 216 now, which
crazy.
Numerically is not something to love or write home about. But for a guy that was threatening the Mendoza line, now all of a sudden to be at 216, he's having himself a really good August. He's hitting 324 in the month of August after hitting 196 in the month of July. He has he's driven in 7 runs this month, 2 home runs, 5 extra base hits. And the thing that I think maybe most pressing is that he's only struck out 4 times in the entire month of August so far.
Yeah.
And now we can have the conversation of, his average exit velocity is almost 91 miles an hour. He's in the 71st percentile. His squared up rates are good.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden we can have conversations about maybe he was getting a little unlucky and he's starting to put some good at-bats together.
I think so. I mean, once that trade deadline came around and we saw Harrison Bader was coming here, we had the conversations, Tyler and I, about Kepler being DFA'd almost right there. Here comes Bader. There's no need for Kepler. Just move him down, all of that stuff. And then he had those weird moments where they had the boos because they wanted to see Duran, and he was kind of the product of that because he was right there. And he had some weird post-game interviews where it seemed like he just was it was in a bad headspace and all this thing.
And you go back to earlier in the year where he complained about, well, I was promised more playing time. And our argument was all right, dude, there's an easy fix to that.
Yeah.
Play better.
Exactly. So it felt like the writing was on the wall with Kepler. And to be honest, I really think that the saving grace that he got for him was that Castellanos just started to slump bad. And because of that, it kind of gave Kepler that chance to play a little bit more and show what he's got. And I think the unluckiness, as they would say, the luck wears off. I think the unluckiness kind of wore off for him, and he was able to find ways to get on base and make hits. And so now it's really working out for him.
He had 12 hits in June, 11 hits in July. He now has 12 hits in the month of August, which is about 2/3 done. You expect that number to go up a little bit.
Yeah.
But the difference was in June, he had 12 hits in 74 at-bats. That's a 162 average. In July, he had 11 hits in 56 at-bats. That's a 196 average. So far in August, his at-bat numbers have come down, which probably they should. I don't think he's an everyday player.
Yeah.
But over 37 at-bats, he has 12 hits. I think in the sample size that he's provided, he's played much better in the month of August. And, like we said, this is a guy who heading into August, was hitting 202. He's now hitting 216. A 14-point average raise this late in the season is pretty hard to do. Yeah. It's really easy to do it in a week in April, right? Yeah. You can fluctuate between 200 and 300 in a week in April because you don't have enough, pretty large enough sample size. But for a guy now who has 342 at-bats, it becomes a lot more difficult to raise your average. To do that in a month, for as much flack as we gave him, and it was justifiable and rightfully so.
Of course.
I think we do a little bit one of these. Tip of the cap to him.
Oh,
he's had a good month.
100%. And I think Ray Schumacher is spot on with his comment, or their comment in the chat. He said it's like Kepler and Castellanos swapped souls. It looks like Castellanos has lost at the plate recently, and Kepler is kind of the opposite. And I have to kind of agree with that. It does feel almost like they did swap souls.
The other question, or the other comment that was there, was Provolone John, and we talked about this a little bit on Tuesday. Says, assuming Wheeler isn't back for the playoffs, who starts the series? Well, I think the obvious answer is Cristopher Sanchez. Like, I don't think you overthink this thing. I think you just say, this kid's been a Cy Young candidate all year. He's earned that right. His road numbers, even if they have to go on the road, I don't think they're going to, based on how they're playing. My guess is they should win the National League East. There's still a lot of time left, but they now are up 7 games in the division, and the Mets are playing some really bad baseball right now. But even if they had to go on the road, his road numbers are substantially better in 2025 than they were even just last year, and really kind of dating back to the portion of his career. I don't think you have to overthink it. Sanchez gets game 1, and then really that's where the question comes in. You and I talked about this a little bit yesterday, Andrew. I said I'd go Suarez, Luzardo, but I think that's where 2, 3, 4 you can start to. There's conversations to be had.
Yeah, and also, I mean, you gave the hat tip to Kepler. I'd also like to give the hat tip to Topper.
Mm-hmm.
I think Topper has done a great job finding ways to construct this outfield, playing with these guys, knowing what they've been, their ups and downs, and the formulation, what he's been able to formulate this entire time, it's been impressive. And I really do have to say that I know people give him grief here and there for certain things. I think he's having a good season as a manager.
I think overall he is having a good season. It is really difficult to manage. Now, granted, maybe some of it's I think maybe some of it's a little self-inflicted. Like, is it an overextension of platoons at times? Perhaps, right? I think perhaps. But I think when you have a team that is structured in the way that their offense is, where you might have 3.5 platoons, like, that's crazy heading into a postseason. And for a team that's playing as well as they are, overall, right, 7-game lead in the division, and at the current juncture, 3.5 platoons in a postseason's a lot. But I think over the last month or so, Rob Thomson has pulled the right strings way more frequently than he hasn't.
Yeah.
Like the other night, we didn't really talk about the Kirkering thing too much, but like, did he leave? Was it Sanchez? Was it Sanchez or was it Luzardo? No, sorry, Sanchez or Suarez.
It was Suarez, was it not?
I don't remember, but either way, my question is, like, in a high leverage spot, that's one of your high leverage arms. He didn't pitch well. That's really all it is, right? Like, you go to Kirkering, you go to Strom, you go to Duran in high leverage spots because they're your high leverage relievers. He just happened to not pitch well on that given night. Kirkering's been really good all year for the most part. Basically, especially since like mid-May on, he's been really, really good.
Yeah.
So I think in those types of situations, it's like, well, hindsight's 20/20, but like, that's the guy you go to in that spot.
Yeah.
I think I tend to agree with you. I think for the most part, he's made some. There are, like, every manager makes questionable decisions. We talked about one last week with Luzardo staying in too long and it potentially costing them a game against the Nationals. But I'm a big believer in the best managers probably win you, 3 games, 4 games a year. And the worst managers probably lose you like 3 games, 4 games a year. But for the most part, their decision-making ends up being fairly net neutral. And I would say if I'm making this up, there's no metric to this. If Rob Thomson's, all of his decision-making got put into a blender this season, I would say Rob Thomson's probably come out like net +1, net +2. Like, I think for the most part, he's been good more than he's been bad. And I think that's kind of what you were alluding to, right?
Yes, yeah.
All right, so let's pause. On the other side, we're going to get into that segment. Actually, you know what? Really quickly, before we do this, Provolone John followed up and said, are we losing faith in Nola getting back to form by the playoffs? So here's my thing with Nola. In a perfect world, I would love to see Nola return to form because I think Nola's postseason numbers are pretty good for the most part. And it's with Nola in the postseason, we talked about this earlier in the year. With Nola in the postseason, it's very 1-to-1 when he succeeds and when he doesn't. And what I mean by that is when Nola keeps the ball in the yard in the postseason, his numbers are great. When he doesn't, his numbers have been a little bit all over the place throughout the years. But in Nola's best postseason starts, he's either giving up one or less home runs. And I'll just go through it really quickly to give you the example. Aaron Nola's first postseason start ever was Game 2 of the wild card round against the Cardinals the year the Phillies went to the World Series. 6 2/3, no earned runs, obviously kept the ball in the yard. His follow-up start, 9-1 win against the Braves. 6 innings pitched, 1 run, no earned, kept the ball in the yard. His next 2 starts were not particularly good. It was against the Padres. It was the one loss the Phillies had in the NLCS, and a loss to the Astros in the World Series. 4 2/3, 6 earned runs, 2 home runs. 4 1/3 against the Astros, 5 earned runs, 2 home runs. So even in just a 1-year sample size, it's pretty evident that when Aaron Nola keeps the ball in the yard in the postseason, he pitches well. When he doesn't, the most recent 2, Game 6, I apologize, against the Arizona Diamondbacks, 4 1/3, 4 earned runs, 2 home runs. His start against the Mets, where they lost 7-2, 5 innings pitched, 4 earned runs, 2 home runs. So he has given up either 0 or 2 in every single postseason start that he has made. And in every single postseason start where he gave up 0 earned runs, or 0 home runs, with the exception of a loss to the Astros where the Phillies got no hit in the World Series, the Phillies have won the game. 6 2/3 win against the Cardinals. 6 innings, win against the Braves. 7 innings, win against the Marlins. 5 2/3 win against the Braves. 6 innings, no earned runs, win against the Diamondbacks. So that was a lot to say. Am I losing faith in Nola? I think it's more just about, I don't know how he bounces back. I don't think it's a faith thing about him in the postseason because I know how he succeeds in the postseason. It's very 1-to-1. It's very much give up home runs, pitch poorly, keep the ball in the yard, pitch well, almost exclusively throughout his major league career. He has a 4.02 ERA in 53 2/3 innings pitched, but if you ask me, has he been good or bad in the postseason throughout his career, I would tend to say he's been more good than he's been bad. The problem is when he is bad in the postseason, he's giving up 5 or 6, and it's primarily because of the long ball. All right, let's pause. That was a long-winded answer, but let's pause on the PHLY Phillies podcast. On the other side, we'll talk more about this extension that was handed out to a opposition's catcher, and then we'll wrap up today's show with our Cranking the Heat segment here on the PHLY Phillies podcast. We are broadcasting live from the Xfinity Lounge at the PHLY studios. The PHLY Phillies podcast, as always, is brought to you by our friends over at Bet365. We will be right back after this. All right, life can be super, super unpredictable. Just like any sports season, you don't know how it's going to end. But one thing that should not be unpredictable is the price of the internet that you have. And you can get reliable pricing with reliable connection with our friends at Xfinity. And at Xfinity, all in means all in. You get Wi-Fi, equipment, and unlimited data included. And the best part, a 5-year price guarantee. One internet price, 5 years, guaranteed, no changes. Change always happen, right? Records get broken, rules get rewritten, but no matter what changes in the next 5 years, the price of your internet will stay the same. Learn more at Xfinity.com. Restrictions do apply. New residential customers only, taxes and fees extra and subject to change. So once again, Xfinity.com for more details. All right, let me tell you about the helpful hardware folks that bring the helpful hardware folk feel right to your front door. Of course, that's our friends over at Ace Hardware. Whether it's an outlet that you said you were going to fix last summer or something more significant like plumbing, electric, heating, cooling, Ace is the place with the helpful hardware folks, and they're the ones that are going to get the job done for you right at your convenience for you, right in your home. So whether it is getting set for the winter months and making sure your heater's up to date, understanding that we're still going to have some summer months. Make sure your AC is cranking at full blast. They bring experience, understanding, that helpful hardware folks feel to your front door. They offer free estimates on equipment installation and replacements with trusted advisors and options that are best suited for your home and your budget. And they're local. Their teams live and work in your area, and they want to make sure their communities and your community run as best as they possibly can. Visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at acehardwarehomeservices.com to get started on your next project. All right, welcome back to the PHLY Phillies podcast. Tyler Zula here, Andrew Frazier with us as well. Thank you so much for hanging out with us on this Friday afternoon. Let's get into this contract extension. So Sam Basayo, who, if you are into prospects, you know is a pretty highly touted prospect, signed a 8-year, $67 million contract extension with the Baltimore Orioles after playing precisely 4 games. 4 games at the major league level was enough for the Orioles to commit to this guy for the next 8 seasons. Because he's one of the more highly touted prospects. As I said, heading into this season, Baseball America had him ranked 14th. MLB had him ranked 13th. Baseball Perspective had him ranked 11th. So he's somewhere in that low teens number.
I'll play 2 games if they want to pay me half that.
Yeah, right. I'll play no games if you want to give me a third of that.
Yeah.
But it's a contract extension. First of all, I think this kid's going to be really, really good. The power numbers are unquestionable. In 2023, he hit 20 home runs over 419 at-bats across 3 different platforms. In 2024, 19 home runs and about the same across 2 different platforms, AA and AAA. This past year, 23 home runs in 238 at-bats with the Norfolk Tide in the Independent League. The Orioles call him up, right? So this kid's going to be a good player. I have no doubt about it. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend that I know what his catching prowess is. Like, is he truly an everyday catcher? Is he going to maybe more be a DH one day? I don't know. I'm not even going to pretend that I do, but I know I've watched this kid enough in terms of clips and things like that. Kid's got pop. It's truly there. He is 6'4", and he's only 184 pounds. He's only 21. I would bet you he puts on a little bit of weight as he gets into the major leagues and grows a little bit into becoming the professional that he is. But Samuel Basayo signed a 8-year, $67 million deal after just 4 games. So there's 2 talking points in this conversation. And the first one I thought was more Philly-centric. The second one is more league-centric. JT Realmuto's contract is up at the end of the year. JT is having an exceptional second half of the season. Been one of the most consistent hitters in baseball, not just for the Phillies, but in baseball since basically the All-Star break. And it's something that we talked about a lot about on Wednesday. It's been really, really good. He also, admittedly, is getting a little bit older. He is going to be 35 years old by the time next season starts. He'll be 35 in March. So the assumption for the Phillies always was, I think they're going to have to re-sign JT, no matter how he was playing. Playing poorly, offensively playing poorly at the beginning of the year, still felt like they needed to get him a contract extension. They trade Eduardo Taiit, who was still years away, but that was their biggest catching prospect in quite some time, probably at least since Alfaro, their biggest catching prospect in some time. Trade him away to get Duran, felt even more likely that JT was going to re-sign. JT hit swinging the bat the way that he has, feels even more likely that JT is going to get an extension. What does that extension look like? I don't know. Is it, is it closer to 3 years? Is he going to ask for a 4th because he's playing well? Does he want to play until his 39 season? And does he want to catch until his age 39 season? A lot of questions that still need to be answered. But this contract extension for Basayo maybe puts a little bit of a wrinkle in things. Because just a year and a half ago, I think a lot of us were anointing Adley Rutschman to be the best catcher in baseball, like the future of the position. Offensively, he was swinging a really good bat, had a really, really good rookie season, 20 home runs, 277 average, slugged well over 430. His OPS was above 800. has been a good defensive catcher throughout his tenure. Even this year, blocks above average is in the 37th percentile. His framing is good. His pop time's good enough, a 1.94 type of, he's in the 50th percentile or so. But the expectation for Rutschman was going to be as the number one overall pick, and I mean, consensus number one overall pick coming out of Oregon State a couple of years ago. This kid's going to be the future of the position. And now all of a sudden, the Orioles have signed another catcher to a long-term deal. Now, the question is, does that mean maybe they're thinking about moving Rutschman to DH long-term? Will he learn how to play first base long-term? Or is he not in their plans? And it's an interesting conversation because, again, just about a year and a half ago, this kid was going to be the best catcher in baseball by a lot of people's standards, mine included. I thought like 2 years from, like in 2023, talking about now, we'd be talking about him as the best catcher in baseball, with maybe without any kind of hesitation. But last year was a little bit of a step back offensively. His average dipped about 27 points. OBP fell. Home runs were right about the same, but he had 20 less hits in just 17 less at bats. Scored significantly less runs. His OPS went down 100 points. And I think due in part because of the hand injury that he had. He didn't miss any time with it, but you could tell it affected his swing. And then this year, he's gone again in a step in the wrong direction. His offense is not good again this year. 227 average. The slug's now under 700. He's not barreling up nearly as many balls. He's not hitting nearly as many balls hard. Now, he doesn't swing and miss a ton. He doesn't whiff a lot. He doesn't chase. Strikeout numbers are good. He does walk a good bit. But his numbers, at least average-wise and power-wise specifically, have gone in a really negative trajectory. So, and now, by the way, he's on the IL once again with an oblique injury. So with this contract extension, what does the future look like for Adley Rutschman? And does that mean the Orioles may be willing to make a trade? And what does that mean long-term for the future of the catching position in baseball, when I would imagine a guy like Rutschman, former number one overall pick, has had a track record of success in the major leagues? There's going to be a lot of teams that are going to be calling the Orioles and saying, what do you want for him? And I still think the Orioles probably will ask for a lot. But the reality is, if you're going to sign another catcher to an 8-year extension, either one of these guys has to move off the position, or you're potentially looking to move Rutschman, which a year and a half ago, again, I would have told you was BS crazy. So I'm curious how this is going to play out. I still think the easiest solution for the Phillies is to extend JT Realmuto. And again, I don't know if that looks like a 3-year deal. I don't know if he wants a 4-year deal. But I have to think that the easiest solution for them is to find terms with JT on an extension. Because again, the future of the catching position is not readily available for this team. But I think it may throw a little bit of a wrinkle into the conversation if Rutschman is actually available. Now, there's been no indication. This just happened over the last 48 hours. But it's just me playing speculation. The Phillies are in need of a long-term catching solution. Adley Rutschman, former number one overall pick, is 27 years old. That's about as long-term as you can get major league ready. It'll be interesting to see how this situation unfolds. But I wouldn't be shocked if this offseason, Dave Dombrowski and the Phillies call up the Baltimore Orioles and see what may be readily available. All right, the second part of this conversation, and Andrew, this is kind of where I want to get you in the chat involved as well. Basayo's played 4 games at the major league level, signs 8 years, $67 million. Comes out to be a little bit more than $8 million a season. Understanding when we talk about money in professional sports, it's relative. Because for us, I'd go live in Antarctica for $8 million. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I would change the light bulb at the top of. I would change the light bulb at the top of a skyscraper for $8 million.
No, I wouldn't do it.
You know what I mean? Like,
that is the thing I would not do.
Okay, so that's your breaking point.
Terrified.
But you do some crazy stuff for $8 million,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
Because it's relative. It's just a number that we will never hope to achieve. It's different in sports. That's a very achievable. It's actually pretty low, especially in baseball. $8 million a year is pretty low.
Yeah.
But it brings up this question that we consistently have across baseball, which is like, should these young, aspiring big-time prospects blow out their arbitration years, blow out their team control years, sign a long-term deal, knowing that the long-term deal is going to be team-friendly, comparable to what they'd get as an unrestricted free agent, but they don't have to wait 5 or 6 years to get to that point. Now, you could play the 5 or 6 year game and bet on yourself and win, like Juan Soto did, and make $700 million. You can also play the 5 or 6 year game and bet on yourself and lose, like Jared Kelenic did, who now is struggling to stay in Major League Baseball, when the Mariners offered him a pretty generous deal for a guy who really didn't put a whole lot together. So it really kind of plays this question of like, do you take the guaranteed money? Because in baseball, it's all guaranteed when you put pen to paper, knowing it's going to be, if you play to your expectations, it's going to look like a bad deal at the end. Or do you bet on yourself and hope that you get to free agency, hope that you're playing well, and hope that you're relatively healthy?
It's a tough question to answer because, if you know you're good and you know that you're going to become a star and you have star-like material, take the bet on yourself. If you're looking to just cash out, get a check, I'm here, I don't need to, I don't need to prove to anyone I've made it to the bigs, I just want my money, then just take the guaranteed money and walk away and be okay with it if it looks like a bad contract at the end.
I also understand, too, construct of, like, your family, construct of how you grew up. Situational, like, fiscal situations play a huge part in this. If you were somebody who maybe didn't come from affluence, or you didn't even come from, like, if your family struggled, it happens everywhere.
Yeah.
Whether you are a local player, an international player, anywhere in between, financial struggles happen everywhere in the world. So if you're somebody who's looking at that kind of situation and says, hey, man, not only can I give myself generational wealth, but I can get my family on a good track for generational wealth, it plays a huge factor in this conversation.
Sure.
So if you're and what's Basayo? He's I forget. I apologize off the top of my head. I think he's maybe 21. I said, 21. You're a 21-year-old kid who looks at $68 million as life-changing money, because it is life-changing money. You can set yourself up for success. You can set your family up for success. You can set generations of after your kids and your kids' kids and your kids' kids' kids up for success. It's a hard balance to walk, because you might be leaving a lot of money on the table in free agency, but you might also end up signing a good deal. Because I brought up Kelenic, right? Scott Kingery signed before he really played any games. He didn't have a successful major league career, but he's got a little bit of money to fall back. Well, not a little bit of money, a lot of bit of money, but little bit for MLB relative to fall back on, right?
Yeah. I think also, if taking the money straight up and being like, okay, and there's also room for restructuring a contract.
Sure.
So like, even if you take a guaranteed amount and then you're playing better and you're living up to your expectations and more so, the team's going to look at that and see that, and they're going to say, okay, we know we're paying you X, Y, and Z. We're going to now, hey, we know you're worth all this. So there still is always that room, you're not.
And I think it also depends on how old you are too. Like, these 21-year-olds who are signing these deals probably have expectations of, if I play well, I still have another big-time contract in front of me, right? I'm not going to be 35 when this contract's up.
You could be 28, 29 years old,
which
and
is
you're getting
prime.
a 10-year contract for like over $100 million.
Right. So I'm going to give you some contracts. I want you to tell me, just on the surface, do you think they're worth it for the player to have signed? Let's start internal. Let's start local.
Okay.
Cristopher Sanchez signed a 4-year, $22.5 million deal with 2 options at the back end that, if paid in full, is a 6-year, $51.5 million deal.
I mean, it's a lovely deal.
That's a steal of a deal for the Phillies.
For the Phillies. Yeah.
All right, one of the most recent ones, Roman Anthony signed an 8-year, $130 million deal with a 1-year option at the back end for $34 million. So if fully paid out, it's 9 for $164. He's 21 years old. So if fully paid out, he'd become a free agent at 30 with $164 million.
Take it.
I tend to agree.
I would take that.
Jackson Merrill, 9 for 135 with a 1-year option for 21. If paid in full, 10 for 156. He would be 31 when that contract ends.
See, that I would take that deal.
Jackson Chourio, 8 for 82 with a 2-year options at the end for 50. So if paid in full, 10 for 132. He would be, I think, 29 because I think he debuted at 19.
You
I
said
want to say
132.
Yeah. So he's 21 now. Made his debut just after his 20th birthday.
Yeah.
He'd be 30 years old.
Yeah, I mean, like, you're going to be a free agent at 29 years old. You already made $132 million, and you could probably make a contract that's going to be double that depending on how well you play in the majors. Take the deal.
Now,
is this deal or no deal? Deal.
Here are the two interesting ones. Ozzie Albies, 7 years, $35 million.
Yeah.
It's a bad deal for Albies to sign.
Yeah, that's a bad deal.
He's too good of a player to be making $5 million a year.
Yeah.
That's and then the big one.
How old is he?
He is, gosh, I want to say he's
ago
maybe
did he sign
27, 28.
And how long ago did he sign that contract?
28. And he signed that deal in 2023
So
after his 25 season.
2 years ago?
So he still has $7 million, 2 years at $14 million total.
See, now that's a deal where, like, at where he was in his career, I would have looked for more money.
He probably could have gotten more
I
money.
would have bet on more money.
Yeah. And then the big one, kind of the one that started this whole conversation, Ronald Acuna, 8 for 140.
Outrageous.
Ronald Acuna is way too good, even with the injuries that have mounted up a little bit over the last couple of years, way too good to be making $17 million, $18 million a season.
And that's a recently signed contract, correct?
He signed that deal in, I want to say it was like 2021, maybe 2022.
So about 4 years ago?
Oh, I'm sorry. It was 29. No, it was 2021.
2021?
Yeah.
Okay. And
So
how old is he then?
He was 23 years old.
Yeah. See, I would have tried to work a little bit more money out of that.
He's got 2 more years on the contract and then 2 club options at 17. Something tells me the Braves are going to be picking those years up.
Yeah.
For $17 million?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's pause. On the other side, we have overtime. We're going to get into our final segment, which is our Crank in the Heat segment. And we'll do all that on the other side. It's the PHLY Phillies podcast. We are broadcasting live from the Xfinity Lounge, brought to you by our friends over at Bet365. We'll be right back after this. All right, for the past 30 years, Golden Nugget Jeweler has operated out of the very same location in the heart of Philadelphia, and it's why customers from across PA, New Jersey, and even Baltimore and New York have come to Golden Nugget Jewelers to find the perfect engagement ring or wedding band. Their staff is incredibly highly trained, and they're dedicated to providing you a personalized shopping experience. They offer a vast selection of engagement rings and wedding bands, but it's not just those. It's also high-end watches, fashion jewelry, diamond necklaces, bracelets, earrings, and so much more. Receive a final cleaning and written appraisal with every engagement ring that you purchase, and it's why that they have been in one spot for so long, right on the corner of 8th and Chestnut in downtown Philly, family-owned and operated since 1987. You deserve an expert with the best service and the best price. Golden Nugget Jeweler, where Philly gets engaged. Visit goldennuggetjewelry.com to learn more. All right, let me tell you about one of our newer sponsors, our friends here, and that is with Righteous Felon. Are you craving the perfect snack that satisfies your hunger and provides the right amount of protein to fulfill your body's daily needs? Well, we've got the solution for you. It's Righteous Felon beef jerky and meat sticks. Righteous Felon traces its roots back to the hallways of Downingtown Middle School and was officially launched by lifelong friends in their apartment kitchen after college. The jerky and sticks are sold in your favorite local retailers like Wawa, where they're running a special right now, 2 bags for $10, the best value you're going to see anywhere on jerky right now. But they're also in Costco, Giant, Royal Farms, and thousands of independent stores. And what's more, Righteous Felon fuels your favorite Philly athletes by working with nutritionists of each of the local pro sports teams to provide jerky and snacks that players eat before and after workouts and are refueling snacks during the game. And if you're the kind of person who wants a deal and snacks delivered to your doorstep, you can order online at righteousfelon.com using the discount code PHLY20 for 20% off. They have all kinds of cool variety packs and bundles on the site. It's also the perfect gift for that special meat snack lover in your life. Again, discount code PHLY20 for $20 off your order on righteousfelon.com. Welcome back to the PHLY Phillies podcast. Tyler Zulli, Andrew Frazier, a little bit over, but thank you so much for our friends that are watching on our streaming services. Head on over to allphly.com to watch the rest of the show. We are officially in overtime. All right, let's get to our final segment of the day, our Crank in the Heat segment, which is brought to you by our friends over at Ace Hardware Home Services. Head on over to acehardwarehomeservices.com to get started on your next project today. The Crank in the Heat Pennant Push segment, again, brought to you by Ace Hardware and Ace Hardware Home Services. Let's take a look at the National League standings. Not a lot has changed in terms of like the teams that are around. The Dodgers have re-leapt the Padres for the lead in the National League West. The Phillies now the number 2 seed again with a 1.5 lead over the LA Dodgers. The Brewers just continue to win and win and win. Oh, you got a look on your face. What happened?
I do. How sweet would it be if the Mets don't even make the playoffs?
So my buddies and I, this is exactly where I wanted to get into today.
Yeah.
I'm glad you read my mind.
Half a game to the Reds.
I'm glad you brought this up. I want to say this. The way that these two teams are currently playing, there is a very real chance the Reds jump the Mets and make the playoffs. Very real. The Mets starting rotation has been ass for 3 months now.
Yeah.
Killing their bullpen. I'm allowed to say that now because we're in overtime.
That's true. You can.
But the one thing that I don't know, and maybe this is like if you're scared, get a dog type of thing. But the one thing I will say, if you offered me right this second an NLDS against the Reds or the Mets, even with the fact that the Mets structurally should be a better team, and the fact that the Mets have kind of had your number in the last couple of years, it's true. The Mets have beaten you quite a bit in the last couple of years, including the postseason. There's this thought in the back of my head that the Reds would pose a bigger threat than the Mets would currently constructed. Because I know that Chase Burns just hit the IL last week.
Yeah.
But heading into a series against, if he's healthy, against Abbott, Green, and Burns scares me a lot more than a series about Peterson, Senga, and Manaea.
Yeah.
You know I'm a big Kodai Senga fan.
Yeah, of course.
I give him a lot of credit.
Yeah, you
but if
definitely
you
do.
can keep the game close through 5, you can beat the Mets with Senga pitching. I would worry about a series against the Reds right this second, and there's 30 games left to play, anything can happen, more than I would against the Mets. So I caution those that as much fun as it would be as Phillies fans to say, hey, man, watch a Mets downfall and miss the postseason. I almost think I would rather play the Mets right this second than play the Reds.
So, Tyler, when it comes to sports, I'm a very spiteful man. And I love the misery of franchises we hate.
Okay. All right. I respect it.
I have, in my fandom, have learned that, and this goes for football, this goes for baseball, this goes for anything. If we're going to lose in the playoffs, I want to see our rival franchises lose in the playoffs. So I'm not saying that the Phillies are going to make a run for the World Series. I'm not saying that at all. I think they do. I actually do think they will. But if it works out where the Mets don't even get a sniff at the playoffs and something happens and the Phillies lose in the NLDS, it will be a lot sweeter to me because I know
at least
that the Mets never got a chance.
Okay. I get your thought.
I'm like that with the Cowboys too.
I don't want the Mets to make the. Let's make it very clear. Bleep the Mets.
Oh yeah,
all
definitely.
day long.
Bleep the Mets.
Bleep the Mets. But I think the way that they're playing right now, they're playing some really bad baseball. I think I am a big proponent of give me the easiest. Excuse me. Give me the easiest path to a championship I can get.
Yeah.
I don't care if people call it Fugazi. I don't care if it's Mickey Mouse.
No,
I don't care. You know what? I get a parade down Broad Street, and that's all that matters to me.
A trophy's a trophy. Who cares?
If
Every
you
team
told
in the playoffs
me,
are good, so it doesn't matter. It's
right.
not. No one's really Fugazi.
If you told me the Phillies' easiest path to the postseason was to win the division, get the bye, and then play the Mets in the first round in the NLDS, then I'd sign up for it.
Yeah.
If you told me that the easiest path was to play the Reds, then I'd sign up for that. But like right this second, if I objectively looked to tell me who would be the easier of the two paths, I think at this current moment, it's the Mets.
Filthy McNasty says that I want payback for last year, bring on the Mets.
Yeah, the year-to-year thing doesn't bother me as much. I mean, like, last year sucked, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm not excusing it. But the year-to-year thing, I don't care about the payback per se as I do about, like, I just want to win the series. Like, if the Phillies have not played the Dodgers in a postseason series since 2009.
Yeah.
Right? Do you think Dodgers fans look at that still and go, Broxton, man, got to get revenge on that team?
Oh, no.
It's long enough away.
Those fans don't even remember that.
It's long enough away, right?
They're Fugazi fans.
Mets last year, they don't show up till the third inning anyway. They sit in traffic for the first two.
Yeah.
Phillies Mets a little bit different. It's still last year. I get the wounds a little bit fresh.
Sure.
But to me, like, if you could provide me with a path to the postseason that doesn't include the Brewers or the Dodgers, sign me up for it.
Oh, yeah. I agree.
I'm trying to win a World Series.
Exactly, yeah. But for what I was going to say to his point, how sweet it would be to get there and we play the Mets and we beat them. But how much better would it be that they don't even get a chance to be there and they have to watch the Phillies
It'd be
win,
objectively hysterical.
and they have to sit there in their 2024 shirts and their, woo, we almost got there. And nope, you're not even close. You're not even the playoffs. You're not even dancing. You're watching the Phillies go through the playoffs.
So I will say this. If you go out and spend $700 million on one player, you really can't miss the postseason the first year. You can't. You got to make the playoffs. The Mets better make the postseason because Mets fans they're calling for jobs already.
Juan Soto's out.
They're like we talked about it in May. The Mets were like, Juan Soto's not playing well. It's like, dude, it's May. Give him a bit. He's gonna be fine.
Yeah.
It's a 14-year deal. You better figure this thing out. But I think that, in terms of like your fandom, it would be, I would fiddle as Rome burned type of thing.
Yeah.
It'd be great. All right, that's going to wrap up today's show. Big thank you to everybody. Oh, by the way, that is our Crank in the Heat segment brought to you by our friends over at Ace Hardware Home Services. Get on in at acehardwarehomeservices.com for all of your servicing needs. All right, that's going to do it for today's show. A big thank you to everybody in the chat. Everybody from Ray Schumacher to Filthy McNasty to K-Red to Peter to who was here earlier, Provolone John. Jaden was here earlier. Everybody, peeling onions. Thank you to everybody. If I missed you, I apologize. We appreciate you. We love you. Thank you so much for being a part of today's show. We'll be back on Monday afternoon to wrap up this national series as we get closer and closer to the calendar, flipping to September. And Andrew, I know it's not a football show, but we are 13 days away from Eagles football. So we'll get to that in due time. Phil's in the Nationals this weekend. For a 3-game set, it will be Taijuan Walker and Cade Cavalli, Aaron Nola and Mitchell Parker, and then Ranger Suarez and Jake Irvin to end the weekend. Big thank you to you all in the chat. Thank you so much to Andrew Frazier for producing and co-hosting. I'm Tyler Zulli. We will talk to you on Monday afternoon at 1 o'clock right here on the PHLY Phillies podcast. Have an excellent weekend, and we'll see you next week.
We all silly like the mayor.